Welcome in one and all, and guess who just had their first instance of recording an entire video and then realizing their microphone wasn't picking up sound? This guy. So, welcome to my second take on reviewing Glory Hammer's. That was a genuine mistake, but we'll touch more on that. Welcome to my second attempt at reviewing Angus McSix's Angus McSix and the All-Seeing Astral Eye. I am Regan, boys. This is Pink Daemon. It's a long weekend and my brain is apparently on holiday, so cut me some slack and let's get into it. Now, as I've already done once, I'm going to keep comparing this band to Glory Hammer, and in the past I've said that I feel bad overly comparing bands in reviews, but in this instance they bring it fully upon themselves by continuing to tie themselves to Glory Hammer in a really weird way. So, for those who don't have the history, Glory Hammer is an amazing power metal band. It was formed by Chris Bowers of Ailstorm fame, and it had Thomas Winkler as their vocalist, and then there was a breakup of those, and Thomas Winkler, whose character in Glory Hammer was called Angus McFife, Fife, as in the area of Scotland, Fife. That sounds a lot like Five, Five, so Thomas Winkler went and created a new band with a new character called Angus McSix, because it's one better than Five, and he made a song about how he's one better. And if that sounds really fucking cringy and petty and just childish, you're damn right. And the band was just a shitty version of Glory Hammer because he thought, being the charismatic frontman, everything rested on his shoulders. And it turns out he couldn't songwrite for shit, he couldn't write lore for shit. The overarching stories of the album are garbage, the individual stories of the songs were garbage, and there was this high fantasy cheesiness that was perfectly balanced in Glory Hammer that then in Angus McSix was just, they just completely stepped over the line into this really like cringy, lol, random humor. It's like one of them is reading The Hobbit, and the other one is some absolute punisher telling you about something really funny that happened in his D&D game, and he's not self-aware enough to know that it's actually all very subjective humor you had to be there in the moment to find funny, and he is just holding you in a prison of conversation for 10 minutes while he tells you this, and you're like, oh, wow, dude, yeah, that's wild. Anyway, I'm gonna go to the bar. Oh, there's more to the story? Oh, okay. So, yeah. Needless to say, I didn't like the first Angus McSix album, but we continue on from that point. Thomas Winkler's now left Angus McSix too, and they've brought in this new vocalist, Samuel Nyman, who's only previous band I can see on Metal Archives is Manimal. He's from Sweden. And he's really good. I'll touch more on that later, but he's a really good power metal vocalist. And he's created a new character in this canon now called Adam McSix, who's Angus McSix's brother. So we are now, like, steps detached from Glory Hammer, but they are intent on holding on to that anchor, that dead weight, of the McSix universe, which is just a shitty, like, petty parody version of the Angus McFife universe, and they are so intent to hold on to it despite the fact they don't have that linkage in the band anymore. So when I continuously compare this band to Glory Hammer and mention how much better Glory Hammer is, it's not me just trying to fluff up Glory Hammer, it's me commenting that they are tying themselves to a better band for no reason at all at this point. So, into the album. What do they do right? What do they do wrong? I really like Samuel Nyman's vocals. He does this thing in power metal. A lot of power metal I listen to, I find where it falls down is I can't really understand, like, it's these big soaring vocals and I can't really understand it. And what he does is he has a very clear vocal style, and that's what made Glory Hammer Thomas Winkler so good in his role, is that he's very legible in his vocals. He can still hit the big soaring high notes, but when you've got such a narrative-based song and narrative-based album and narrative-based band across all their albums, you really need to be able to follow the narrative. So when I listen to something maybe like a Blind Guardian on some of their songs, unless I'm like really focused in on the vocals, I miss half of it because it just kind of soars past me. Whereas Thomas Winkler was really good at having super clear vocals, and they found someone to fill those shoes in a really good way with Samuel Nyman. So, big ups on the vocals. Beyond that, the rest of the band also very accomplished power metal musicians. I don't think their individual pieces are bad. I think they've just kind of been put together in a bad faith way of the whole generation of Angus McSix, and now they're carrying on that legacy in a way that doesn't really make sense to do, and they're not playing to their strengths because of that. I think the solution here is to reform the band, not even get rid of any members, just drop Angus McSix as a concept entirely, and then come back, and you can still be a cheesy power metal band with a cool narrative through, but just make it 100% original. Tell Thomas Winkler to fuck off if he's still got any creative input, because his creative input was his weakest point. Alright, he was a great frontman, a great vocalist, could play a character, a fantasy character live in a live show environment, but it's clear he didn't have any writing chops, narrative or songwriting. So just detach yourself completely from that, reform the band, and go for your life. And I say that again because there are good riffs in here. There is good segments of individual songs. Lots of moments where I'm like, ooh, I'm almost into this. And then they will just do something that's just classic Angus McSix isms. Of like, it'll hit a moment where they do something that's really cringy and not funny. Because they think part of being a cheesy power metal band is being silly, but there's actually a really nice balance that you need to have of like the songs need to stand on their own individually, and then overall the concept can be a bit like, oh, that's a bit wacky, but you're still a band, you still need to create good music. So when the songs themselves are like, oh, let's put the wackiness in the song, and it starts reducing the quality of the music, you're failing. And they keep doing that. Every time they start getting a good rhythm going, they'll do something that then fails. They will throw in a little cringy break or monologue from a narrator or something. Or they will use, and like, they did this a few times, they used popular music riffs, like nursery rhyme riffs, something that you can instantly glue to. And I don't hate that in very small doses. A lot of Japanese bands will use the Sakura riff. Go look it up, and you will immediately be like, oh man, I've heard that in like baby metal songs, I've heard that in Maximum the Hormone songs, like you will know it. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that they do that, it's a very like cultural heritage thing. And I don't hate that I don't hate that Angus McSix has done it, but I do hate that they've done it a lot to the point of like, oh, I don't think this is an homage anymore. I think you might be out of ideas or just glued to a bad idea, or maybe you're just shit songwriters, whoever put that together. Or maybe it's, kind of a convergent evolution thing of you've got this very simple nursery rhyme rhythm and a bad songwriter, and he hits this point of like, oh man, I've created this really cool rhythm, and it's like, oh no, you've actually just reinvented a child's nursery rhyme that's designed to be simple. I don't know what causes it. I'm not in the room when they write the songs. All I'm saying is it's done to the point of death. They need to really scale back on that. As for the lore elements, they're just not good at making the story go anywhere. In the songs and in the album, even when it does move forward, it doesn't move forward in a satisfying way or to a conclusion that you're invested in. And for large swaths of the album, it just doesn't move forward at all. And you're left with these 4 to 5 minute songs and this 42-minute album that feels very slow because it's just not going anywhere, both in the pace of the song and the narrative of the story. It's hard to invest in it. It's just like, wrap it up, guys. It's stories have filler episodes, that's the thing, but it's kind of feeling like everything's a filler episode until we get to the last story that's just going to push the narrative forward heaps. And that's bad storytelling. Finally, a third of these songs have guest vocalists on it. It feels very, I don't know, collaborative Napalm Records. I think they're on Napalm. I would be shocked if they're not. Where they just keep pulling in other people from other acts. And, Angus McSix is already struggling to get its own identity. It's already constantly tied back to Glory Hammer, who are just a much better band. So to water down their identity even further by just having a bunch of guest vocalists on, bringing their style into the song, it really is just detrimental. And I don't think people who are fans of those other bands aren't already aware of Angus McSix. It's not like they need a Raspity of Fire feature so they can get Raspity Fire's fan base. They're both sizable names in the power metal world. Raspity Fire fans will be aware of Angus McSix, and if they're not already listening to it, it's because it's not very good, and getting Raspity Fire members to feature on the album doesn't make it better. Focusing on being better songwriters makes it better. So all in all, yeah, obviously I hated this album. I can't recommend it. It is a tease. I wish it was actually worse, so I could just be like, put it in the bin and never think it again. But it's those moments of flaring brightness where I'm like, oh, you almost have something. You've got a competent band, but you are anchored to this old idea you don't need anymore from an embittered ex-band member who's gone now. And you also don't know how to write a entertaining conceptual narrative album. So you need to just drop everything and start building this. The same members. The members are talented. Start building this from square one again, with none of Thomas Winkler's influence, with no historical connection to Glory Hammer, without trying to be a large narrative band like Glory Hammer. If you get back to that point on your own merit, that's fine. But it still feels like you're trying to be Glory Hammer, and you're just not. Alright, Glory Hammer are great, and they've been great without Thomas Winkler. Just stop trying to be that. And Thomas Winkler, just, I don't know, stay going, dude. Or ego check yourself and then go back to Glory Hammer, or go find a band where someone can write the parts that you're weak at. But God, you have clearly just got such a huge idea of yourself in your mind, and you're not him. Anyway, that's my take on it. Music is subjective. If you know someone who likes Angus McSix, go check on them. They probably need help. Other than that, have a very happy Easter, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.